Hello, good afternoon. Ken McBee from Swift Transportation, obviously. Got a few friends here to join us to talk about some exciting news that is happening in our business over the next couple months. So you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Happy Halloween, everyone. My name is Brett Stewart. I'm the Vice President of the Owner-Operator Division. I'm joined by...
Hi, Jim Fitzsimmons. We're just kind of here to kind of tell you what's going on with the market, finally seeing some life in the market and kind of give you an update on how we think the rest of the fourth quarter is going to go and into the first of the year.
Great news. Well, if you have comments or questions, drop them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many live questions as we can in the next half an hour. I do know we have our executive live that we will do in December. So another one that will be coming here in the next month and a half. So think of any questions there too you'd like to ask, but we'll keep these coming. So let's jump right into it. And, you know, I'm excited to talk about the market conditions. It's been a tough couple of years, right, Jim?
Yeah. So probably the last 2.5 years has been very slow. Like no surprise, right? COVID really got everything going crazy. Everyone jumped into trucking. Freight was going nuts. Freight came back down to normal, and you got all these extra trucks, all these extra trucking companies in, and just not enough freight to go around. So it's been a dogfight for 2.5 years, and so finally it's starting to slowly shift. It's not like it's a snap and we're back to the races, but we are starting to see that slowly start to shift. But the great thing with Swift is we have some customers that have really stepped up the last couple of weeks, and our freight levels have been a lot higher than they've been for over 2 years. So that's kind of what we've been talking about is making sure, you know, everyone's taking advantage of that freight. It'll definitely be here through, you know, into January, potentially go to the end of January, but definitely it's here through, you know, the 1st of January. So just encourage everyone to take advantage of it, you know, while we have all this freight and extra freight, because it's, you know, going in January, every year it slows down. We know it's not going to, you know, keep at the same volumes we're at now. So it's kind of like you gotta take advantage of it when it's here.
Yeah, you do. And there's probably some ways that we can really take advantage of that, right? One of them would be, let's talk through the importance of service, Jim.
Yeah, so service is huge. That's probably behind safety right now, I'd say service is probably number 2. And it has been very critical because the fact that, like I talked about, there is so much excess capacity out there that our customers give us very few chances to improve. So if we have a late load, you know, we typically get some warnings, but they're not going to keep giving warnings because they've got other people just banging the door down trying to get that freight, oftentimes at cheaper rates. And so if we could continue to provide a high level of service with the capacity, the size of Swift, you know, it's great for a customer because we got a lot of trailers, a lot of trucks, but then when we deliver on time, it's kind of a no-brainer to keep that freight on Swift. Now, when we start failing loads and their customers are upset because they don't have product on their shelves, now that pressure comes back to that shipping manager, and they're quick to make a decision to try another brand out. And so that's where service is critical, that, you know, as we get booked like this, we got to make sure we do all we can to take care of our customers and get the freight delivered on time.
Definitely. Not all the other brand, well, not even brands, but a lot of the other trucking companies aren't seeing this. It's probably a little unique to Swift because of our trailer network and things like that, right?
Definitely unique to Swift at this point right now. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I'd want to mention about service as well, which is changed a lot this year, is generally 65 to 70% of our freight, would you say, is drop and hook. So we preload that at this shipper location. In the past, usually the shippers don't care so much about when you come and pick up the load. It's more about delivering it on time. That's changed a ton. And so I would just call that out to say, pay attention to appointment preloads as well. We're graded on when you pick up that preloaded trailer and also graded on the delivery.
So they could consider it a service failure, or you're not servicing them well if you pick up early the load, right? Yeah. Even though
it's kind of like, that one drives me nuts, but it is what it is, right? It's the customer scorecard. It's how they track service. But you're right. There are customers that literally penalize us the same on a scorecard. And keep in mind, scorecards are what they're using to decide, does the carrier, you know, stay in this lane, or do they even get a chance to rebid when it comes up for bid? But some customers do penalize the same for picking up a load early as they do for delivering late. Like it drives me nuts because it makes no sense to me, but it's their scorecard. And so when they have that rule, we have to abide by that. So to Brett's point, you got to make sure you're paying attention to what's in the system. We try to make sure we put a window in there or a specific time. If we know a load's got to pick up at 9 a.m., then it's 9 a.m. If it's got from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., we put that window in there. But don't just assume if it's 8 to 5, you could pick it up early, you could pick it up late. That's where you always want to verify. If you can't be within that window, let's make sure that customer is okay picking it up early or late, so that we don't take a service hit on that.
And some of these scorecards, we could literally lose by 0.1%.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very small margins that we're graded against, right?
Yep.
So tell us about PTAs. Why are they so important, Brett?
Yeah, so PTA is a projected time of availability. That is you communicating with our planning network when you're ready for your next load. So if we don't know, or you can't give us an accurate date and time, it's more difficult for us to guess, right? So setting an accurate PTA on when you're actually going to be ready for your next load, I would say is priority number one as far as utilizing your hours of service and increasing the amount of loads that you haul.
Especially in an overbook market, because say you set your PTA for, say you got a load delivers at 6 a.m., you'll be ready by 8 a.m. So we're counting on you ready at 8. If we book a load that picks up at 9 or 10, we're counting on you at 8. And then at 8, we find out like, oh, wait, I actually have to go, do laundry. I got to put my truck in the shop. I got to do whatever it is. I'm not going to be ready till noon or 1. We potentially blow a load when that happens. Hopefully we could reshuffle the deck and get the load covered. But when we get to markets like we are now, where we're really overbooked, which is a great problem to have, that's where like the PTA to Brett's point is really critical, because we're counting on that driver being ready at that time.
And that's in your seat, ready to go, not, hey, I called you from home. I know I said, hey, you have a load for me, right?
Yeah.
That's some of the stuff because of the market, we've probably kind of went a little backwards on. So
yeah, and that's kind of, it's no different, with our drivers and our operations folks on the inside, in the office. Everyone's got to just kind of sharpen their skills a little bit, because we went from being underbooked for so long, where we had a little more flexibility on certain things, to where now those type of areas we don't have a lot of flexibility on. And a PTA would be one that I would think would be very critical, that we're counting on that driver to be ready at that time, and we're going to book against it, because we got the opportunity to book a load, so you don't have a lot of downtime waiting for a load.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk holidays now. So I think they fall on the worst days almost this year, right? So Thanksgiving is always Thursday, but Christmas and New Year's fall on Wednesday. So not the most opportune days. Right now, we really need them to let us know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, to your point, Thursday for Thanksgiving is probably fine, right? What I would tell you this year is, the last 2 years, maybe even the 3 years ago, if somebody got home on Thanksgiving and took, a Wednesday, Thursday, and it kind of rolled into Sunday, it probably really didn't matter a whole lot, because we didn't have a whole lot of extra freight. This year is going to be different, where we're going to be missing freight. So the more effective you could be on your home time, the more money you can make in November and fourth quarter by taking advantage of the freight that's out there. Because I can promise you, this year we could use every driver that's ready to go, whether that's, you're ready on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. They'll be most likely, I hate to say generalize, I hate for somebody to be in North Dakota, like there wasn't a load for me.
Yeah.
And most markets will have a load for you, because the way this environment's shipping up, we don't see it slowing down at all.
We're not saying don't take home time.
No,
What we're saying is,
yeah.
hey, if you take Christmas and you take maybe a day or two before Christmas Day, come out after Christmas Day, right?
Well,
or try to.
I would say not only that, is press to say, hey, I'm going home for Thanksgiving. I'm going to be home Wednesday. Can you already give me a load to come out of the house on Friday? Is there something in the yard? What about Saturday?
Yep.
Have your plan ready for what you're going to do coming out of the house. That's the difference of this year from last. There's going to be those options.
Exactly. There'll be freight just piling up waiting for you.
Yeah.
And all the drivers and owners should expect to hear from their driver leaders or owner operator consultants. I believe we asked all the operations staff to try to get as many home times in by November 8th as we could. So next Friday. So therefore we can let our customer knows our availability.
Yeah, because there again, right, we want to make sure we're transparent with our customers. We don't want to take more than we could, handle. So, we're going to be looking at those home times, trying to establish how many drivers do we think we'll have on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We know we get into Monday, you're gonna have a lot, but it's those days leading up to that Monday that are kind of critical.
And we can put in multiple home times now. So before it's just one at a time. Now you can put in up, I think it's up to 6 or 7. So you can put in the dates.
Plan
that you
ahead.
need. Yeah, definitely plan ahead.
And with Christmas on a Wednesday, I love when Christmas falls like on a Saturday or Sunday, because it kind of just ties in with the weekend. With weekends are always slower on freight. Being on a Wednesday, that's one of our busiest days of the week, and so it's a challenge, with having multiple days off during the week, because if you come back to work on a Friday, things are kind of slowing down after Christmas, after that last weekend, because you got New Year's. So it's kind of a challenging time right there. So again, knowing what your plans are leading up to that will help us try to accommodate with the amount of freight we're booking in each market based on where the drivers live.
And then this year, as we kind of see the market somewhat start to normalize, what's the best time of the week that you should always be available, or try to be if you can?
Yeah, 98% of the time, Monday through Friday is when the majority of the loads are rolling. Saturday and Sundays are typically, if you added those 2 days together, it's less than half of what you would have on a Monday through Friday. So if you're trying to plan your home time, and I'm not talking holidays, just normal regular week, the best time to plan your home time would try to time it where you're off on a Saturday, Sunday, because Monday through Friday is always going to be your best days of the week to get a load.
Well, let's hit some exciting stuff for you, Brett.
Yeah.
First of all, do we have trucks available?
We do. There are plenty of trucks to choose from. If you're ever interested in being a lease operator for Swift, I'm sure we'll stream a number at the bottom of the screen for you to reach out to one of our lease advisors and ask any questions that you have. We're excited to announce a few new trucks coming into the network. We do have some newer 2025s, some 24s, an older, 21 to 22. It just depends on what your price range, what are you looking for in a truck.
So you could do a 1-year lease, 4-year lease, older truck, a newer truck.
Yeah.
We have everything you need.
Absolutely.
Got them sitting up in front of the terminals here at the terminal, different colors.
Yes.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But there's one that people have been asking for, and it sounds like we're going to dip our toe in the water, right?
Yeah. Actually, I think we're going to announce that we're going to have some Peterbilts coming into the network, not just for owner operators. We're hoping to get a few for our long-term owners, but
for company drivers, yeah.
Company drivers.
Yeah, so those are coming in later this year is when we're supposed to start receiving
Probably
those.
December, I heard.
Yeah, so a lot of excitement around that. We've had people asking for Pete's forever. I didn't think we'd ever see it, but kind of excited that we're gonna dip our toe into the water and see how they work and give it a shot. So more to come on that.
Yeah, definitely. And then the one thing that we've answered 10 times and probably said, oh, we'll never do, right? It doesn't pencil out. We have a test truck coming out here next month or in December too, that will have an electric APU, I hear.
The new Volvo they have a different term for it, but really it's an electric APU. We've kind of coined it that. I can't remember, they have some fancy name for it, but really what it is an electric APU. And so, yeah, really excited about those trucks. Again, these would be kind of a test, see how these trucks do. It's a brand new model. So the new trucks, you always have issues. It takes a little while to work the bugs out. So, so we don't want to just dive in and buy 1,000 of them. But I think we've got 25 coming in to Swift to try these out, see how they work, see how the electric APU works. But both these trucks, really all of our trucks, all the new trucks we've ordered,
super nice,
have a ton of cool features. Even, like the new Freightliners are going to have the blind spot monitoring. We just side guard, I think they call it. Just a ton of cool features. So these trucks every year seem like they get nicer and more safe every year.
Definitely. Feels like it's Christmas already.
I know.
We got Peterbilts, we got APUs.
And we got lots of freight.
Oh, yeah. We got freight. Well, so therefore, what else do we got coming?
We have one example of freight increasing that I'd like to just share with you guys is, over the past few weeks, we've averaged around 75 to maybe 100 loads per day on the load board. Just recently, we're averaging over 300. So just to share an example how freight is improving. Now, again, it's not in every market. There are specific markets that it's really improved in. But if you're an owner operator on with us today and haven't checked out the load board in quite some time, I just encourage you to get on to swiftloadboard.com and take another look and see if that works for your business.
Yeah, because it probably looks completely different today than it looked even 3 weeks ago, right?
Absolutely.
With the amount of loads that are on there.
Loads almost triple.
Yeah.
Well, a little birdie told me we might be making another upgrade that's coming to that load board soon, right?
We are, yeah. So what we're looking to do today is Swift has always had the rate per mile option for our owner operators, and we've been asked in the past for another option, something that would allow an owner operator to increase their revenue opportunities with not having to run as many miles to get that rate per mile. Some of you out there prefer the rate per mile. It's a comfortable place to live and be. But we are looking today in another pay option for you that would be more of a revenue share, a buy now or buy load option.
So kind of like a percentage.
Yeah,
Sounds like
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we're working through that. And when do we plan on seeing some of that start to come to fruition?
Spring of next year, we launched the load board in April of this year. And if we can launch that program for the rest of the group next year.
Spring, summer, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. One of the other things that let's hit on trailers. I want to hit a couple just survey items, and then we can answer some questions. But we've really had our yards packed now. Now, of course, this freight picking up is going to help, pull some of those trailers out of the yard and do some other things. But Jim, can you tell us kind of what we're doing with trailers to help solve this problem?
Yep.
Right?
So we've been working on this, all year, but we're still in the process of locking down and selling trailers. Now, keep in mind the trailer problem, like the shortage of trailer, it's kind of a different problem, right? In the East, we're short trailers. In the West, we've got so many trailers that we're short parking spots in the terminals. And so we've had to go out and lease some other yards. A lot of extra expense, obviously, when we do that just to park empty trailers. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So we've been in the process of selling trailers. We're also in the process of shifting trailers west to east, west to central, and then west to east. And so both those things continue to happen. And we've got a customer that's going to be leasing trailers in the west and returning them in the east. And so that'll be, a huge difference for us. That'll solve two problems. It'll free up parking space in the west and give us more trailers in the east where we need them. So we're trying to be very strategic on where we're locking down trailers so that we don't short a market that's already tight on trailers. We're trying to do it in markets where we know we have excess trailers.
Okay.
But, while we're talking trailers, I feel like power only always comes up.
It does.
And I feel like so many people think of that as a negative thing when it's not. And so because we literally have probably 7,000 to 10,000 extra trailers, we try to take advantage by doing power only. And what that is that's somebody else hauling one of our trailers. Doesn't mean it's one of our loads. Now, sometimes it will be, like right now when we're overbooked, but typically the load that's in that Swift trailer is not a load that would be behind a Swift truck because we wouldn't be hauling it. Usually those are very cheap loads that go through a broker. But if we could use it on our trailer through power only, we actually make money on that load by doing it. So it's a win for the company. For a driver, I get it, because if you're sitting in a terminal, you're underbooked, and you see Bob's Trucking go out with the Swift trailer, you naturally would assume that guy just took a load I could be hauling. Well, that's not a load you could be hauling. We wouldn't have booked that load inside of our trailer. We're just booking it through our Swift Logistics, using it on our trailer, power only, to make some money on that load that we normally wouldn't haul.
And try to get it to the other side of the country a lot of times, right? We're hoping to haul
depending,
from
we
west to the
do.
east.
That's kind of a separate deal. So with power only, it's very balanced. Like that Swift Logistics department is in charge. If they pull a trailer out of Phoenix, they've got to get the trailer back to Phoenix before they're off the hook for what they're paying for that trailer. Now, there are some where we're doing one-way moves, like which I think you're alluding to, where we're trying to shift trailers west to east. So then we do a one-way move. So out of the carrier would haul our trailer, drop it off where we need it.
Great. Well, we'll jump into some questions, Steve. Hopefully that answered your third-party drivers pulling our trailers. That should take care of that. One person, first question on the list was, are we finally getting Peterbilts? Heart. So yes. How can we get reimbursed for paid parking? And paid parking, I think they only really have to do that. That's one of the biggest struggles, right, in the trucking industry, is finding a parking space at night. So that's just something that we need you to get to a spot. We really want them to park at our terminals, right?
Ideally, and I know right now, like, maybe if you're in the West, you're probably not going to find a spot in Kruger Valley, and you got to go into, Ontario to a truck stop. I don't really know how that works exactly, where if you get to a truck stop, there's not any free parking. I know these truck stops have decided they can make money by charging for parking. I really don't have a feel for how that works in our system. I don't know if we reimburse that, don't reimburse, but ideally, there's not a lot of margin in trucking, right? So if you're paying to park your truck at a truck stop, it's not ideal. We'd rather have you park in a free spot or, like your point, at a terminal.
Well, and I think this is where their terminal leaders are really reasonable. If it happened one time, they're going to do it. If it's a consistent thing, it's, well, figure out a different process, right? All right. Are any of these long distance Amazon loads a regular thing?
Potentially.
Good deal.
It'll be around through the end of the year. Actually had a meeting with Amazon on Tuesday, so we're negotiating with them now. We've always done a little bit of business with them, but we haven't done a lot of business with them since 2017. So more to come on that one.
Service is key, though, right?
Service is absolutely key on that one.
So definitely. There's some questions here about any inflation adjusted pay increases coming.
Yeah. So Adam said it numerous times that when we see the market start to shift, and we'll know when that is because we'll start to get rate increases. The last 2 years, it's been rate decreases. Some recent bids have been kind of like flat to slightly up. But what we have to have happen is we've got to get more margin in the business. And where that margin is going to come from is rate increases. We've lowered our rates so much just to keep the freight we have. But at some point, it's got to go back up. And when that goes back up, that's when we'll look at doing some selective rate increases. Now, keep in mind, unless you've been here for, you probably know better than I do, Ken, the time you've been here would determine your increase as well. So we haven't stopped doing that. So it's based off mileage or tenure. But I know, like, when you get to, if it's 10 years or 12 years, there's a cap.
Well, in our flow codes, we've posted that. So, or you can talk to your terminal, but that tenure and mileage is in there.
Okay.
For the line haul driver.
Yeah. So a lot of our drivers, most of our drivers should still be getting an increase as you get more miles, as you get more tenure. Now, those of you that have been here for, I can't remember if it's 10 years where it caps out.
It caps out, I believe, around 10 years.
Okay. So for those drivers, obviously, that I know you haven't got an increase because you already hit the cap or the ceiling. Those are the areas we'll have to look at as things loosen up a little bit in our margin where we could put more money back in there. So think back to like 2020, 2021, early 22, we continued to do pay increases because our rate was going up. Now the rate dropped down drastically. Obviously, we didn't take any money back. We would never do that. But we can't afford to do anything right now because it's so impactful on the profit and loss statement. When you do that, we got to be very careful that we know our margin's going to be strong enough that we could do that and still make the money and the margin we need.
And there's still a lot of other things that you can make that with becoming a mentor.
Yeah.
That pays you a couple $100 a week just to have the student on the truck, plus the miles they drove. And also your driver performance program for the ones in line haul, that's up to 8 cents. Once you get to that diamond status, for the big majority of them, it's up to 6 cents. So there's lots of availability there to still make a little bit more, or a lot more, actually.
Yeah, good point.
Brian Glass asks, with daylight savings time around the corner, is the time zone crossovers important?
Yeah, and I guess I'll take that one too. So that, as a driver, you just got to make sure you know where you're at, where you're going, and what time zone you're going to be in, because I feel like depending on what you're using, like most people are using an iPhone or a smartphone, there are settings on there where it could change automatically when you cross time zone or not change when you cross time zone. So you got to be very aware. You got to be aware when the time zone does change, right? Because you might get caught off an hour by not realizing the time changed last night at midnight or whatever. Yeah. But more importantly, I feel like the majority of what I see, and probably what Brian's sitting on, is when somebody starts in the west and they go east, they're not taking into consideration a 2 or 3 hour time difference. But that time zone on the order that you get, like, so say it shows 8 a.m., that's 8 a.m. in that time zone.
So make sure we're aware of that, because that switches all this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Also too. So there's another hook into there.
Exactly.
Austin, you're asking, how much vacation do we get a year? Off the top of my head, I believe it's 1 week for the first year. 2 to 5 years is 2 weeks, and then 3 on is, or 5 years on is 3 weeks. So you can get with your driver leader. They can give you the exact. It's also in the flow codes. What model of Peterbilt's they're asking?
I don't know.
579s is what I heard.
Okay.
So let's see. Are we investing in any new trailers anytime soon?
Right now we're not. So we don't have a new trailer, any kind of new trailer order right now. I'm sure the manufacturers would love if we did, because probably no one's buying trailers right now because the used market's so flooded. But until we get our trailer pool, like the total amount, down to where we feel like we're back to a point, then we'll start to continue to, so if we sell 1,000, we'll buy 1,000 new ones to try to keep that number at a somewhat balanced number. We definitely got too many trailers in, but during 2020, 2021, we took advantage of that, right? So we made a lot of extra money having all those trailers. When things slowed off, now we're left with this glut of trailers, and the used trailer market. It's very hard right now to sell one. So
Yeah, and keep in mind we're selling our older trailers.
Yes.
Right. We're keeping the newer trailers in the fleet, which will be better.
It's more just a comment for you, Brett. Options for factory APU for owner ops in trucks, please.
Yeah.
Was for Chris. So we'll write that down. Let's see here.
yeah, that's actually a good idea. So we've looked into APU several times, and I always am hopeful that the math will work. But because we trade our trucks out every 4 to 5 years, the math, the ROI, the return on investment, unfortunately just doesn't work. So the fuel savings we would have with an APU doesn't offset the additional cost you have of purchasing the APU. And part of that's because we have the bunk heaters in our trucks. You're not burning all that fuel 12 months out of the year. It's only during the summer months, which if you're in Phoenix feels like it's half the year now. Yeah. But most places, obviously, it's a shorter time of the year. The winter is longer, and therefore the bunk heater is more efficient. And so unfortunately, the APU just so far hasn't penciled out. Now, I'm still hopeful with these electric APUs. As battery technology gets better, I think these electric APUs will get better and better. And I think they'll get cheaper and cheaper, where it gets to the point where now it's not we're against APUs, it's just the math doesn't work. Yeah. So once the math works, we'll be doing electric APUs.
Awesome. This is one that comes up once in a while, but is there any discussion on consolidating the KNX companies and sharing terminals or any of that?
You have to finish that question.
That's
a fast no.
I knew it was.
Yeah, so we're very proud of keeping our company separate. Years ago when Swift used to acquire companies, we would roll it in, and that old company would kind of lose their identity. It just doesn't work as well. Like when you could buy, and we're very picky on who we buy, right? So when you buy a good company with good people and a good culture and kind of a good foundation, what we try to do is just expand on that. And then you get the synergies of having like this massive KNX organization when it comes to purchasing, whether it be trucks, trailers, tires, parts, fuel, oil, anything you can think of. There are some synergies that start to happen. But when you get rid of that brand, you lose that loyalty. So like, say Abilene is, when it comes to mind, a smaller company. If we were to do away with Abilene and just make that Swift, you lose that, kind of that loyalty. People work for Abilene for a reason, no different than we work for Swift for a reason. Absolutely. And so when Knight bought Swift, I was so excited how their model was to keep us separate and just make us better. So that's going to be our model, moving forward. It doesn't mean we're not going to share best practices. Like right now in El Paso, we're looking at El Paso on the Knight side, doesn't have a shop. We've got obviously a great shop in El Paso. And so we're looking, what can we do? How many techs do we have to add to help service the Knight trucks? And so that's something we could do as a company where there's no negative impact to Swift. There's, it helps out the Knight drivers by being able to get a B service when they're at home.
Yeah.
But it's not a huge impact, but we could do that and still keep the brand separate. So we'll be very selective where we do that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ike, you're asking if there's any chance we can check trailer PM status and things like that on the app. That is stuff that is on the backlog that I know it's coming probably in 2025. Kai, you're asking, will Flatbed get more trailers to fix the trailer problem they have in Laredo? And I know they're...
Yeah, so I know you can talk to Chris Drown about that to get a little more detail. I know right now we have a lot of trailers sitting there with inbound product that we can't get unloaded. Chris is in the middle of that. He was actually just down in Laredo yesterday. So we don't want to buy more trailers or like stack them in, bring them in. What we want to do is get the trailers we have there that have freight on them, get those unloaded. So that's what Chris is trying to do. Everything got kind of out of whack down there with the balance, but hang in there. It should get better fairly quick here.
Great. And then I'll give you a couple more here. Does Knight Swift have any contingency plans to deal with maybe ramifications that happen from this election, no matter who's the candidate that's picked?
Yeah, so I met with Sean Call on that. Sean's over our security for all the brands. He really feels like probably at Swift, Knight, like at the full truckload, we don't have the same exposure that maybe like some of the other brands like LTL are going to have because of where we're delivering. So we'll be very aware of that. We have a team that will monitor that. If we feel there's an area that might have riots or something going on, we just won't send our trucks in there. But I really feel like typically where you'll find those riots are going to be areas where we don't ever want to send one of our trucks into anyways with the 53-foot trailer. Now, if you're bobtail and you're going on home time or you're going to see a friend, you got to make sure you're kind of aware of what's going on, right? We've seen this in the past with you get these idiots that, take over a street or occasionally take over an interstate. You just got to be very aware of what's going around and then make the best decision on the fly, right? I think that's one that's very hard for us to tell you what to do because each one of those situations is always going to be unique. Now, typically these, mobs of people, they're not going out to like hunt a truck driver, right? They're just trying to cause chaos and shut a freeway down or shut a road down and get the news out there and get some publicity. So I would tell you, vast majority of the time, you're better off just to stop, kind of comply, and just wait for the crowd to be dispersed by the authorities.
Yeah.
But if we know what's going on, I promise you, we'll be using our geofence to look what trucks are going into there and start getting drivers on the phone.
Excellent. I'm just going to hit two more that I'll really just answer is Mark Olinger, you're talking, can we get spec sheets on the 2025 trucks? I would just check in with truck assignment here in the near future. We were just excited. We want to talk about it. I do know it's a 579. We don't have all the specs, but they should be coming in towards December. So we're working on that and asking a lot of questions ourselves. So Charlie, you're asking, can you get a little more, a little bit more on the package or percentage package you were thinking about for owners? More to come. We're working through all the details, but we just wanted people to know that we are working on it. I think the big part of this is we hear your feedback. All these surveys we're doing, like organizing our yards, moving trailers, this pay package for owners or any of those things. These are things we're working on, and we appreciate you. 3,300 people did respond to the last survey, and it's given us a whole list. So there's big groups of people that are working on things that you should probably hear from us, or there might be some subsequent surveys that come to you on specifics, like, hey, what were you talking about with this in the near future? So lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're at time. We're through most of the questions. If we missed any, we'll try to answer them offline, but appreciate you. At least the weather's changing a little bit here in Phoenix. I used to say how hot it was, but now this is the time where we can kind of laugh as Arizonians.
Right.
But be safe and take care.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all you're doing out there.